Oh, there's my pretty picture. I could leave them up like for the entire presentation, but I'll refrain. I think what's most interesting. Oh, first, feel free to ask questions. I don't mind. Today, and so I can tell you all about my credentials, but let's just assume I'm qualified. And we'll talk today more about what the substance is. And one of the most interesting things that's happening in the United States, in Canada, Mexico, Spain, France, Dubai, around the world, is there's a change. A change from when they'd say, and they come and they complain about their mailbox size, and that was all they dealt with IT, right? The business would come, why is my mailbox size too small? Somebody, my attachments. I'm like, why do you have 50 gigs of email? No, okay, so, but now the business is being held accountable by regulators, by the business, right? You have, in Canada, you have rules, there are lots of emerging legislation. You have the PPDA, you have in the United States, 50 different state laws, and there's a litany. But what's that doing? That's changing the risk. It's moving from, oh, the guy who sets up email to, oh my God, this is an actual business risk, right? I can get in trouble as the business leader, right? I have to answer to shareholders. And so what's happened today is the role of the Chief Information Security Officer has changed, right? It's really changed. Right, it's no longer been the person that says no all the time, right? I mean, oh, that's that guy, stone or girl, woman, stone them. To, the person who puts 2FA on their phone and everybody hates, to somebody that's actually enabling the business, right? Protecting the business, helping secure what is probably one of the most valuable assets in the company, their data, the information, and the risk for the company. Right? Now board members are personally liable, right? People say, oh, a data breach is bad. The truth is, for a data breach, the people that really get sued is the company and the shareholder and the board members. Think about that. Every time there's a data breach in the United States, and it's starting to happen a little more in the United Kingdom and in Canada, are the board members and the company. Not the IT people, the board members and the company. So all of a sudden, your role as a Chief Information Security Officer takes on a lot more importance to somebody who's going to be personally sued, right? And it so happens this person, the board member, and I work with a lot of boards, they manage the CEO, right? They manage the Chief Compliance Officer. They manage the management. So like we say here, right, they've become sort of, well, who here, like today, I'm going to ask the audience, I'm going to have to ask you all some questions, but who here has been, or their senior IT leadership speaks to the board? Right? And so think about it. If I told you 10 years ago that IT people would be allowed to talk to the board members, you tell me I was crazy. You literally would say, we're not letting that person in the same room with the board members. Today, it's compulsory. Today, but how many people that are in IT have been trained on how to talk to the board about risks and businesses and that information? They haven't. And how many people have trained the board members on how to ask the right questions? If you want one key takeaway from today, it's you, if you're in that position as a steward, should work with the board to train them how to ask the right questions. Right? Because once the board members can ask the right questions, it makes your life a lot easier. Right? Telling how many people click on a spear phishing email is not helpful. I mean, it's perceived help, but they don't understand. Right? So help them understand and ask the right questions of what you're doing. And so the rules changed. And so how does the board look at cybersecurity today? Besides it costing a lot of money and making no money, right? I hear that a lot. Really? Budget increase again? 4%? We're cutting everybody else's budget. Yeah, but the Canadians, they passed this. No, I'm kidding. So, but it's changed, the board's perspective. And why has it changed at the board level? Because board members are personally responsible. anybody that is listed on the US exchanges, even OTC or ADR, as of December of this year, their board members all have now a responsibility for oversight. In Canada, that's coming, rest assured. In Europe, it's already almost functionally there, right? So think of that. All of a sudden, board members need to understand if they have MFA, and that's not Museum of Fine Arts. No, I've been in board meetings when they're like, the CISO, I had a board member come up to me, a main nameless, large, very large global Canadian company. He comes up to me, a board member, and he goes, Mr. Garrie, I have a question. Don't laugh. I said, there's no such thing as a bad question. I said, you're a board member. You can ask me whatever you want. You're paying me a lot of money to be here. He goes, what's MFA? He says, is it the Museum of Fine Arts? And I said, definitely not. But I mean, but think about it. They don't know what cyber is. They don't know what, you'll sit in a board meeting and say, we've activated MFA. It's like, okay, great. I don't know what that is or why I care. And they don't care, nor should they care, right? They need to know what's the business benefit. The business benefit to them is our systems are more secure and we're in compliance with some more laws and we're gonna help lower the potential business cost of being compromised. That's what they care about. Right? So then the board, and this is repeating, you know, but they're looking, no board member cares how your firewalls are deployed. They don't care about Checkpoint or Palo Alto unless they sit on the board and they're investors. I'm just telling you, they're like, Palo Alto, great. Like, that's a great city in California. Like, they care functionally about what it's driving to manage the risk. But nobody's taken the time to train the board members on how to ask questions about that risk. Nor have they talked to the CISOs or the IT executives on how to engage with the board about those risks. Right? Data protection. Who's been in a meeting like in the last month where they've heard the word data protection? Like everybody, right? It's like every board member, I got data protection this, data protection that. Here's the real question. What does data protection mean to you? Because I promise you the board members think of it much differently than the way you do, right? So I give you a real world, if you want it in context, here's a great example. And we'll talk about how it fits into strategy in a second. But I was giving a talk once, and so who here works in IT? Most people? Yeah? Okay, so when I say the word adversary, what do you think? Somebody can beat you up, hacker, criminal? No? Now, when you go to a lawyer and you say, and this is general counsel, so remember, this is the person that's running your legal team and your compliance group. And you go to them and say, hey, look, we have an adversary issue. They're thinking about the people that are suing them. They're not thinking anything about the hackers or the bad guys. They're thinking about the people that will sue them, that will sue the corporation, file suit, right? So think about that. So you'll talk to them, oh, we have adversaries. They're going to be like, what is he talking, like, what are they talking about? Right? So you need to define a common language, right? You need to, and if you think about it at a functional level, cybersecurity at this most senior levels, right? How does it actually fit? What is the goal of security? Cybersecurity, what is the true functional objective if you're a company? Like, I know everybody wants to be good stewards and prevent people from losing data and whatever, but functionally, what is the goal of cybersecurity? Well, oh, there's a microphone. Oh, here. Yeah, so reduce risk for the business. And they want to reduce the risk for the business so they can make more money, right? That's it. It's a real binary thing. They want to make more money, and you need to lower the risk. The board understands that. A board member will understand what does it mean, a budget, CapEx, OpEx. They have no idea what spear phishing and smishing and phishing and whatever, like spear phishing, they may think it's something you're doing in Fiji, okay? Like, but I'm serious. So you have to explain to them what does it do to manage the risk, right? It helps us ensure that our employees don't click on emails. They don't care if you click on links. They really don't. What they care about is if you click on the link, what's the result? You're MGM and people get really drunk and can't get into their rooms, right? And then they go back and gamble more. So you think they'd be excited, but they weren't. But truthfully, think about it. It's not the clicking on the link. Clicking on the link causes a result that then causes a problem. And the problem is impact to the brand, losing the data, regulators or ministers passing laws that let more people sue you and make your lives miserable, right? That's what they're concerned about, right? They're concerned about how much money are we going to spend and how does it manage that risk. But think about it functionally. When you're talking to somebody and you say the word adversary and they think of lawyers and you're talking about hackers, how do you think that meeting turns out? I can tell you, not well, right? Like the lawyers, and here's the best part, lawyers come in and they talk to the technologists, and they, you know, I worked in IT for some time, and they come and they give you like a 30-page policy saying, this is our data protection policy. You're like, thanks, really helpful. We're gonna take that and we're gonna use, that's very helpful. Contributing a lot. But you know the truth is, they've never taken the time to have a conversation with you to understand how your systems are built, right? What is a cloud? How does the art, you know, there's been no thought. They've just given you this policy document. So you know what happens? It sits on your desk for 6 months, maybe 3 months if there's a budget meeting and quarter meetings, whatever. Or you, end of the year, you have to spend the money, right? But the point is that you then functionally take a policy document and interpret it. But here's the crazy part. You were never trained on how to interpret legal policy. You don't have a law degree. You don't work in 25 years in compliance and are a minister or whatever and know how to whatever. You say, oh, I read this word and this is what I understand it to be. And so if you want to be effective and make your company more secure and effective, you have to work to understand these things both ways. And it's sort of like, people are always afraid to ask questions and participate because it's a lack of knowledge or whatever it is. I openly tell people my 10-year-old is way smarter than I am, right? It is complete, you know, what isn't okay is to say, oh, was that not supposed to happen? But when you get a 30-page policy about data protection, which I promise you, you will get in the next 3 months if you haven't, telling you about all the like, and they're going to go down, and then they're going to hire a consultant. This is my favorite part. And the consultant's going to come in, and they're going to create a data model of data elements that have no functional understanding of how they actually work in your business, and then give that to you saying, this field needs to be protected this way, completely oblivious to the fact that your entire data architecture doesn't work that way. If you want to avoid those problems, you need to have those conversations. So the question then, it fits as a critical piece of your business. If you fail to secure your business, you won't be in business. Look at MGM. They lost $10 million a day. Their $100 million cybersecurity insurance, you know what they told investors? Don't worry about it. We have insurance. You know how much the insurance is? $400 million. So can you eat a $400 million loss? Can you spend $1 million or more a week to get your systems back up? And that's just for people to come around and make sure things work. I'm not even talking about restoring data. Right? Imagine everybody in this convention can't get into their hotel rooms. And then imagine we're all out really drunk. Now think about it. That's what happened. No, I mean, think about the magnitude of the problems that represents to a business. Cybersecurity is an inherent part to ensuring your business can operate, whether you're in finance, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in manufacturing. And it's really important that people that operate in that understand that's how the business is thinking about it. The business isn't thinking about your firewall. The business is thinking about what risks is this helping me control and manage. Right? And that's an important change, right? There's been a huge shift. And and a lot of people that work in technology don't recognize that they don't care how the technology works. They care about how it manages the risk. How does it help us be more effective? Right? And but that's a different vocabulary. And so when you're communicating with the board or the C-suite or whoever, right? Remember that talk to them in language they understand. If you're using the term adversary, tell them it means hacker. Tell them it means someone that is trying to break, not someone trying to beat you up, someone who is literally, but define it, right? Tell them it's okay to ask questions and engage in a conversation. The more questions they ask you, the more effective you will be able to be. I mean, there's always that annoying person that asks way too many questions, but you know, it comes and goes, it comes with the territory. But it's really important to align your security controls with the business priority, right? Not the other way around, right? It doesn't work the other way. Nobody cares about the cybersecurity controls. They care about the business priority, right? And so it's important to realize that. And then, you know, oh, this is the other thing. Nobody likes being told, oh, we need to put in place a data protection model. They're like, what does that mean? Like, what do you want us to do, right? If you want the board to do something for you, you have to tell them something that they can actually do. Write a check. Write a check for what? A data protection program? That's great. What is that? What are the steps, right? Be able to articulate that, right? And then, so what's the benefit of a good relationship? You keep your job. I mean, I can go into the nuts and bolts of it, but really, like, I tell people, well, like I said, 10 years ago, if I were to tell you that the CIO would be speaking to the board or even sitting on a board, you would tell me I'm crazy, right? In fact, some of them should not be on a board, I do agree, but like, there are board members who shouldn't be on boards. But think of what that means. All of a sudden, the people that are responsible for the people's mail, like literally board members think, oh, this is the person that manages my mailbox quota. They don't understand the cloud or the data architecture, or all the hundreds of people that may work on that. They're like, oh, these are the people that give me that green and red thing every time I try to log into my mail. No, but this is their head space. This is where they're coming from. It's not a bad thing. They don't work in IT. But if you want them to be effective in helping you be A, they have to like you, and B, you have to be able to communicate with them, right? And so that's a very important thing, and educate them, right? Take the time. The other thing is, don't talk down to them. I can't tell you the number of times I see CIOs put things up and they're like, this is a network architecture diagram. And I promise you, nobody on the board has a clue what is being said. Like, they don't care, they don't understand, right? But that's not a way to effectively guarantee, A, you get to have your job, or B, more importantly, that your company will be able to advance what it's trying to do, which is secure its systems, right? You need to speak to them in the way they understand. Any questions? All right. Well, this was a great talk. No, I'm kidding. So, to me, there's no clock, so how much time do we have? A couple minutes? 10 minutes? Perfect. So, to me, one of the most interesting things that's happened is that when you're talking to a board today, or when you're speaking to a board, someone mentioned they're focused on risks. What are the risks they're focused on? What is the lens? People, what do you think the lens of a board is? Where do you think, what are they focused on? Any guesses? Yeah? Money, reputation, right? Because that's how they pay people's salaries. That's how they return value to shareholders, right? They're not focused on whether or not people can work from home outside the fact that they're not working hard enough. No, I'm kidding. Like when you think about it practically, you know, when it's very tricky because everybody went to work from home overnight or over a couple weeks, right? And it was a train wreck. You know, some people did it better than others. But think of what that means, right? All of a sudden, all of the network security controls that you deploy in your office, all the monitoring, all that technology is gone. You have 16-year-olds playing Xbox alongside senior corporate executives writing memos. And I won't even say what else they're looking at, those 16-year-olds, and bringing into your home network, onto your network system, that in no workplace would that be allowed. Think about it. Everybody that's working from home is violating every single one of your content policies at some point during the day. And there's no filtering, no monitoring, and no controls. Now, I've sat in board meetings where they're like saying, oh, we need to invest in remote desktop and virtualizing. And they're like, virtualizing? They're like, oh, virtualizing. So again, a communication problem exists, right? Because once you explain to the board, by deploying these tools, we'll be able to protect and make sure that people are working in compliance with our policies and our business mandates, and ensuring that we're effectively complying with the policies and the laws that govern and we're required to, they'll be like, yeah, we're happy to spend that money. But if you talk to them about the need to protect people's home networks, they don't care at all, right? But they do very much care about making sure that they're in compliance with the policies, and with the controls, with the business risks that come from not having the appropriate controls, right? Think about it. I sat in a board meeting and I said, who here has a 16-year-old? A couple people raised their hand. Who here has a 12-year-old? A couple more people raised their hand. And then I made the mistake, don't ever do this in a board meeting. Who here has a 4-year-old? And this person raised their hand. I was like, wow, God bless them. So like the point is that everybody there said, oh, we have kids. And I said, well, whose kids were learning from home? Everybody kept their hands up. And I said, who here have faith that their children are using the internet in a corporately responsible fashion? They all lowered their hands. I said, well, that's why you need to invest in the cloud and virtualizing your desktop environment, because you have no faith in the fact that your own children are following. But see, what I'm saying is, by changing the conversation, by making it about managing the risks in a way they understand, they will engage, right? But talking to them about, oh, we need to deploy VPNs, or we need this, right? Again, when you're managing, right, to the board members, they travel a lot, right? Or some do, some don't. And when they travel, who has a bring your own device policy in their workplace? Right? Most people? All right, so then here's the deal. Who here gives employees their own phones? So then here's a question. How many of the phones have malware antivirus programs on them? Right? So here's what happens when you ask that question at a board meeting. All the board members whip out their phone, they start looking at their phone. Right? But you know what risk? What risk is that helping manage? Right? Think about it from your perspective. From a business risk, what risk does that help manage if making sure the phones are secure? Anybody have any idea? What risk? Yeah, protecting intellectual property. Any other guesses? What else? Think about it. You have on your phone, right? And you get email or links texted to you. People have phishing problems at work, accidentally wiring money to people. I'm sure that never happens to anybody here, right? Nobody gets spear-phished at all. But everybody that's working remotely with their own phones, who's securing their phones? You secure the work email, but who secures the mobile device? Right? Who protects them from getting the Amazon package link sent to their phone that people click on? Right? Now, think about it from the business perspective. They want to protect their intellectual property and they don't want to lose money. Right? So instead of talking to them about, oh, we need to deploy an MDS solution, or we have to deploy these technologies, if you tell them, we need to help manage our risks so we stop losing money by wiring money to people that are criminals and having to report to regulators by deploying this on their phones because everybody uses their phones. And oh yeah, we don't want to lose all of our intellectual property because someone got really drunk at a bar and left their phone unlocked and someone stole it. And they have unfettered access to all of our corporate systems. Right? Board members will understand that. They will understand the risks that is presenting and what the need is to spend against that. You have to quantify that, right? You have to explain, this is what it would cost if we have to do this, right? But talking to them about technology, they don't care. And they will never, and they shouldn't care. Their job, don't forget, as well, we're ending here, but do not forget the goal of the board is to manage the senior management team. So cyber isn't, making sure that new employees get training is not the job of the CISO. Hey, newsflash, that's what HR is for. HR hires people and runs training programs. Their job is to talk to the cybersecurity executive to make sure they have content, right? When somebody moves between the back office and the front office of a bank, it's not the CISO's job to make sure that they know the person's moving. That's HR's job, or their business executive, right? It has nothing to do with the CISO's role. But in the minds of the board members and the senior executives, it is the job of the CISO, because CISOs don't explain to people that our job is to provide tools to enable businesses to operate. Our job is to provide training so that when we onboard employees, they're properly trained. So that when we have procurement and they add new vendors, they're not fake vendors. You know, I had a client that added a whole fake hospital system and paid it, right? I mean, millions of dollars. And they're like yelling at the CISO. And I go, how is this possibly the CISO's fault? Procurement added a vendor, right? They literally added the vendor. Then the finance department added the financial information and verified it. All they did was allow people to transmit. I go, you should give them an award. They actually let it go successfully and securely. That was their job. But in order for chiefs, anybody in the senior executive level to articulate that, you need to explain that to people. Because if you don't, they don't know, nor do they care. And so you have to take an affirmative step to make that risk and engagement happen. Otherwise, you'll just sit there and they'll just yell at you. I mean, maybe not as much, but probably. So, I mean, the point is that things have changed. And that you as senior leaders in IT need to ask the questions. Like, when you add a new vendor, has legal made sure that they are required to tell us there is a breach? Right? It's not your job to make sure the company tells you. It's your job to tell legal when you sign a contract, have we made sure they're required to tell us? You're not lawyers. You're not sitting there like, oh yeah, I'm going to write that contract and whip out that. Like, no. It's a job of the legal team to make sure that those things are in place. Right? But you have to participate in that conversation and drive it. Because the role of the chief security officer has dramatically changed. And you need to functionally approach it that way, and you'll find yourselves sitting on boards and doing all sorts of other things. If you don't, you'll find yourself looking for a new job. Maybe not immediately, maybe they love you and you have a great personality, but eventually some board member will get really tired of having to click the red and green button. But I thank you so much for your time, and I think I've run out, so have a great rest of your day. I'll be here for a few minutes to answer questions. Have a good one.